My name is Rod Hoter and I'm a Senior Architect from the Tech Marketing team. And in this short video, we will discuss how to import and ingest third-party feeds into Enterprise EDR. What is a feed? So on the Carbon Black console, a feed is a collection of actionable IOCs which have been put into a report format. Carbon Black Cloud comes with a number of built-in feeds, but also we've got the ability to import third-party threat intel. These feeds can be published to all public orgs in the environment, to a selection of reserved and managed orgs, or just to specific private orgs. With CBC, we've got that level of control. In the console, the feeds are watch lists whose type is F, as per the screenshot on the slide. So what's a watch list? To use those feeds and that intel to report an alert, we must evaluate the IOCs against endpoint data. This is where watch lists come into play. So watch lists can be subscribed from a feed or can be created using existing reports or custom IOCs. Once created, a watch list can be edited in one of three ways. A new report can be added, existing reports in the watch list can be disabled or enabled, or the watch list as a whole can be unsubscribed to or disabled. And this is handy for all tuning. Both feeds and watch lists can be managed via the API and the CBC SDK for Python. For documentation on this, please refer to developer.carbonblack.com. Now that we've got an understanding of what a feed is and what a watch list is, let's discuss how we ingest third-party feeds. Firstly, we need to create an empty feed in CBC. Now, this can be done using the API or via the console. We then run the config wizard, pointing to the taxi server, our custom feed. Now once configured, we run the collector which passes the data into the CBC. More information on this can be gathered from our developer website or in GitHub. Now let's run through an example of how this looks. Once the threat connector is installed using the instructions in GitHub, the first step is to create a feed. Now this can be done via the GUI or the API. We're going to use the API. And we're using the create feed command. Now when running this command, you've got options, so you can specify things like the feed name, you can specify URL, a description and a summary. Now once you hit return, that should create the feed and give you details on what the feed looks like, and you can log into the console to see this new feed that's been created. So then in the console, under enforce and watch lists, along with your other feeds, you should see this new feed that's been created, and you can edit and manage it as you would all other feeds. Now once created, you'll need to run the config wizard, which steps through the fields needed to create a config.yml file, which is then used to connect to your custom feed. Firstly, you need to specify a name for your CBC profile. I'm going to use Limo, but you can use whichever name you'd like. Then you specify what version of Stix is used. Here we're using version 2. And then you need the feed ID from your newly created feed. Now I got this using the API and using a simple get command. If you need more information on that, please refer to developer.carbonblack.com. Then we've got to specify the severity, and we set up the URL for the custom feeds, whether you're using a proxy, and then for your custom feed, the username and password used. And then I'll just hit defaults until I add the site. Now in the demo, I've already added the site, so here I'm just going to select no. Now let's have a look at that file that we've created, and what you'll see is everything that we've added in. That file has been populated with all the details that we've used in the config wizard. Now the final stage is to process the Stix context from the taxi server using the process server command. Here the important thing is to specify the config file to use. Now as long as the config file has been configured correctly, once I hit return, you will start to see that file being processed, and then in turn see those IOCs being processed too. Now, this can take some time depending on how many IOCs you're collecting, but once completed, you will see that all the IOCs from your chosen custom feed have been imported and are available in your console. You can then edit and take actions on these IOCs from this imported field in the exact same way you can do with your predefined feeds and IOCs. Now, I hope this was helpful. For more tips and tricks and demos, blogs and guides, please go to carbonblack.vmware.com.